Actually had to pull off. We're on Powell Road right here, but there's an overpass just a little bit further behind us where you can see the amount of traffic that is backed up on 71 North, but you can also see those police lights in the distance. Actually, somebody just stopping over here a few minutes ago to talk to us saying they haven't seen that many police lights ever in their entire life, and they had to turn around because of that traffic being blocked off in that area. Now, of course, we just got here to the scene. We're still working to get new details, but we do know that there are several agencies responding to this at this moment in time, and for an officer involved shooting. Again, we're still working to get those details. We're going to try to move a little bit closer and give you a better look with new details coming up in just a few minutes, Tracy.
All right, thank you so much, Krista Frost reporting, and she is in that area of I-71 northbound. Mutual law enforcement agencies out there. You saw all the traffic. That's why we have our traffic anchor, Gabriela Garcia, here to help you get around that space if, in fact, you need to navigate some alternate routes. So let's go to Gabby right now. News happening on I-71 northbound, right beyond that Polaris Gemini Place exit. And so it is closed. This is because of a police shooting. Columbus officers are involved. We saw mutual aid there with other law enforcement agencies, including the Delaware County Sheriff's Office and the Highway Patrol. Again, this is causing quite a backup. 270 is closed. You can't get around there. So if you do need to head out and you were thinking about going to the Polaris exit, you might want to try to get off at around 161, maybe work your way up, use Cleveland Avenue. You could also go ahead and get off at 23 and go up that way so that you could avoid being on that Polaris Parkway area because it is shut down. We do have crews there. We have our traffic anchor working on some alternate routes. We will update you as we get more information. At this point, we want to hear from Gabriela Garcia, who is watching this. As you see, we have that massive backup. And we did hear from a reporter who was there, Krista Frost, who said someone stopped her and said they'd never seen this kind of response, this many police officers in their lives. This is a rarity. You do know at this time of day that area of 71 North is relatively busy because Polaris does have a number of restaurants and that sort of thing for people who are ready for lunch, that kind of thing. If you're ready to head out, do take note of the area because right now you can't get where you might want to. Gabby, what can you tell us?
Yeah, good afternoon, Tracy. It's quite a busy situation there. So I'm mapping this out for you guys to avoid I-71 because as you can see that 71 northbound between 270 and US 36. It's a very long, big stretch of road is closed. As you mentioned, I'd go ahead and take State Route 3, US 23, 315. As you were saying, if you're headed out on the road right now, you're trying to get northbound, just avoid I-71 altogether. Taking a look at that detour, though, if you're trying to get from 3 to get to US 36, you're moving up to speed, 60 miles an hour, 56 miles an hour. It's best to avoid I-71 with this closure. And the ramps are also closed from 270 to get to I-71 northbound. So I'd go ahead and take 270 to get to State Route 3. Again, US 23, that's High Street, or State Route 315 instead of that. So just taking a look, it's a really busy situation. Even southbound lanes of I-71 down to 1 lane, according to the Columbus Police Department. So just plan for several extra minutes on that commute southbound on I-71 as well. Of course, I'll keep tabs on this when we update you guys next.
All right, Gabby, thank you. Friends, as you can see, this is a very fluid situation. Again, it's breaking news. I-71 northbound. This is a shooting involving police, mutual law enforcement working out there to address this situation. We have several crews because we're going to bring you the latest on what's happening there on later editions of our newscast. The next one up is 10 TV News at noon. We hope you will join us. We'll have the latest there. You can always get the latest on our 10 TV News app. It's free. We also have updates at 10tv.com. Right now, we're going to return you to our regular schedule.
Jeff Simpson's talking over at IKEA. Jeff Simpson. did hear radio traffic. Now that I see it, that UPS truck was hit by gunfire.
Hey, I can't get anything on reserve line 4. It's just there's no answers if
think they've got any videos of it.
a.m. At 9:57 a.m. we received our first call involving a male that was on the freeway, physically standing on the freeway with a gun firing off shots at cars that were initially traveling I-71 northbound. We received several calls about this male, not only Columbus Police, but Delaware County as well were receiving the calls just based on the fact how far north we are when people were calling 911 as far as the dispatch centers. So we continued to receive the calls, and officers obviously were responding in lights and sirens, getting to the scene as quickly as possible to assess the situation. Officers arrived on the scene, and the suspect was still outside of the vehicle on the side of the freeway. Let me actually back up for a second. What's important to note, there was also reportedly a female with the male, so we're unsure at this time if it was some type of domestic incident that facilitated them being outside of the car. We're not exactly sure why the suspect possessed a firearm, but we can confirm that the suspect did in fact have a firearm and was firing off shots at cars that were passing through I-71 northbound. When officers arrived, the suspect still had possession of the firearm. At some point during the interaction, we confirmed that the officers exchanged shots with the suspect. Unclear how many shots were fired between the suspect or the officers, but we do know there was an exchange of gunfire between the responding officers and the suspect at scene. Thankfully, none of the officers were seriously injured in this incident. One officer was transported to the hospital as a precautionary measure out of the incident. Currently, the suspect is in critical condition at an area hospital. We're still awaiting an update on his condition. But like I said before, none of the passengers or the passerbys that their vehicles were struck by gunfire were injured in the incident, but there is significant damage to multiple cars that were passing through prior to the officers' arrival. So again, BCI is on scene and investigating this. We will not be investigating the shooting. It is an ongoing and fluid investigation, so I will try to answer as much as I can, but just understanding that BCI is in charge of the investigation, so information is limited.
What's the condition of the female?
The female was not hurt, no transport. Thankfully, no injuries to her that we're aware of at this time.
Any idea how many cars were struck, the cars passing by?
So from what I could tell at the scene, as close as I could get to the scene, there were at least 3 cars that I could see that were damaged. There may have been more, but I know there were at least 3 cars that were damaged by gunfire.
Are they still at the scene?
Yes.
Do we know the identity of the male who was shooting?
We're still working through that. We can just confirm that he appears to be a male adult. But we're not sure of his exact identification at this time, but we're working through that.
Was he using a handgun or was he using a different type of weapon?
From all indications at scene, it appears to be a handgun, but we're still working to confirm what caliber and how many shots were fired.
What kind of injuries to the officer?
Very non-life-threatening, not specific on where the injuries or what caused those, but I can confirm that they were transported by medic for precautionary reasons.
Gunshot or something else?
I don't believe it to be a gunshot, but there were injuries sustained out of the incident.
Was the 911 call made from that car before this all happened? You said there was a woman in there possibly related to domestic violence, you know?
Yeah, so we're still unclear on if the woman herself called initially, but the calls that we do know that we received were from passerbys that either witnessed him, the suspect with the firearm, or the victims themselves that had their car shot out.
Do you know what happened 2 seconds before the shot? Officers fired their shots. Did they call out warning, let them know who they were? Did he do anything to instigate the shots being fired, shooting at them?
Yeah, that's all part of the investigation, so hopefully there were cruiser video systems were activated as well as body camera. So if any of that in fact were activated, as soon as that becomes public record, we will release that. But that's all pending what BCI will allow us to have, part of their investigation.
The radio traffic from this incident indicated that he was running down the highway shooting at officers prior to officers firing back. Is there any indication that that anybody on the highway was struck during that motion incident, or was it all before officers arrived at scene?
So it looks like at this point there were cars struck, but no physical people struck prior to the officer's arrival or as a result of the officers discharging their firearms as well. We can confirm that there were at least 3 officers that were involved in a critical incident. I'm unsure specifically if all 3 officers discharged their firearm, but I can tell you that there were 3 officers at the scene at the point of when at least one of the officers discharged their firearm.
Was it only Columbus Police that responded to this? I know you mentioned some of the calls came into Delaware County too.
Yeah, so Ohio Highway Patrol responded, Delaware County Sheriffs also responded, but at the time of the incident, only Columbus police officers were involved in discharging of their firearms.
Were any cruisers damaged in this incident?
Yes, I can confirm that there was extensive damage to at least 1 cruiser as a result of the exchange of gunfire between the suspect and the officer.
Which would indicate that the suspect was firing at that cruiser.
Correct. So at this time, I'm going to switch over and have our FOP president, Jeff Simpson, talk a little bit more about the incident, but obviously he's going to speak more to just how dangerous this job is and the nature of why it's so important to have not only the Columbus police officers that responded, but critical to our success and the safety of the citizens of Columbus. He'll talk a little bit about why it's important that the officers responded to do their job.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
In the tweet from Columbus Police, this was called an active shooter situation. Is that how what you would call this?
Yes, absolutely.
Why so?
Because we know prior to the arrival, we received multiple calls that he had shot at multiple cars. Whether he knowingly knew the people or not, this is definitely an active shooter situation based on the knowledge that we had prior to arrival.
Do you know if that suspect was involved in anything else before the shooting?
Yeah, we're unsure of that right now, but as soon as we work to gather and identify who he is, we'll start gathering background on any type of incidents that he had been involved in prior to the shooting or anything that led up to it. Hey.
I am, if it just came up on phone. Tim 30 just got here. Be a better shot and better audio. Who am I talking to?